Everything you've ever built, broken, lost, or created began with one thing: a thought. Not an action, not a result, not a circumstance, but a single invisible idea forged in the silence of your mind. This is the truth most people ignore. Your world is not shaped by what happens to you. It's shaped by how you think about it. And the quality of your thoughts determines the quality of your life. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the strength of your inner dialogue. What you feed your mind becomes your fate. If your thoughts are weak, your results will be weaker. If your thoughts are scattered, your life will be chaos. If your thoughts are negative, your world will feel like a war zone, even when you have peace. But if your thoughts are disciplined, if they are intentional, if they are aligned with your vision, your values, and your higher self, then you become a force the world cannot ignore. And make no mistake, the world doesn't shape the mind. The mind shapes the world. Think of the greats. Edison didn't wait for the world to give him light. He created it in the dark. Ford didn't accept the limits of the horse. He thought of a better way and built it. Disney didn't wait for permission to dream. He imagined a world so vividly, the world built it for him. The difference between a life of mediocrity and a life of magnificence is not opportunity, it's mentality. Most people never conquer the world because they never learn to conquer themselves. They let every setback become a sentence, every opinion become a prison, every failure become a finish line. But those who master their thoughts, they bend reality, not with magic, with focus, not with fantasy, with faith, not with hope, with habitual belief. Because here's the principle Napoleon Hill laid down a century ago, and it still holds. Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. But belief is not passive. It's not wishing on a star. It's an act of will. It's the decision to reject every limiting thought the world has tried to sell you. They told you to be realistic, they told you to play it safe, and they told you to stop dreaming. But who were they? Bystanders, spectators, quitters? You don't take directions from people who've never been where you're going. The mind is like soil. Whatever you plant grows. You plant fear, you harvest paralysis. You plant resentment, you harvest bitterness. You plant doubt, you harvest failure. But if you plant vision, belief, discipline, and faith, you harvest greatness. But here's the catch. You don't control the harvest. You only control the seed. You don't get to demand results before you master the input. You must earn the outcome by shaping the inner world that produces it. So the real question is not, what do you want? It's what thoughts do you allow to live in you? Because every thought is a choice. Every belief is a decision. Every mindset is a vote you cast for greatness or for average. And most people don't fail because of a lack of talent or time. They fail because they never took control of the machine between their ears. They react, they absorb, they imitate, but they never design. They never stop and say, oh, wait, who authored this belief? Who told me I wasn't enough? Who said I couldn't be wealthy or powerful or disciplined? And more importantly, why did I believe them? Your mind is the most powerful weapon you will ever possess. But a weapon in untrained hands is more dangerous than useless. It destroys instead of builds. That's why the first battlefield is always the mindset. It's where all wars are won or lost before a single action is taken. If you think you're too late, you won't start. If you think you're not ready, you won't try. If you think you'll fail, you will sabotage yourself before life ever has the chance to test you. But if you think with clarity, if you think with faith, if you think like a winner long before anyone sees your win, then you set fire to the path in front of you. Thoughts lead to feelings. Feelings lead to decisions. Decisions create action. Action builds reality. And if you want to change your life, your habits, your bank account, your body, your relationships, you don't start by rearranging your calendar. You start by reprogramming your thoughts. That means mental discipline, mental filtering, mental elevation. You don't let every fear, every distraction, every criticism rent space in your mind for free. You charge it rent and raise the price. You say, if this thought does not serve my vision, it is not welcome here. If this belief doesn't align with my future, it ends today. If this pattern is inherited but disempowering, I am the one to break it. because you are not just fighting for your life, you are fighting for your legacy. You are fighting for every future generation that will live freer because you mastered what they never learned to confront. You don't just change your world when you master your thoughts, you change theirs. Look back at every visionary who shifted human history. They didn't wait for the world to think for them. They trained their minds like warriors. They studied, they focused, and they elevated their consciousness. Because when your mind is strong, you become unshakable. And this is what they don't teach in school. No one will come to build your mental fortress for you. It is your job to train your thoughts like soldiers, to patrol your mind like a king guards his gates, to fortify your inner world until it becomes so powerful, no storm outside can shake it. And yes, it's hard. It's daily, it's lonely at times, but so is greatness, so is mastery, so is anything worth building. This is not about toxic positivity. This is not about pretending everything is fine when it isn't. This is about choosing to respond with power even when everything falls apart. Your thoughts are either your weapon or your weakness, and no one else can choose for you. You want to change your world? Start with your clarity. Because most people don't fail from lack of effort. They fail because they're chasing what they never defined. They're busy, they're grinding, but they're lost. They climb ladders with speed and intensity, only to realize they leaned them against the wrong wall. Clarity is power. When you know what you want, the world becomes quiet. Distractions fade, doubt weakens. The noise turns into signal, but clarity requires courage, because it means telling the truth, the real truth about what you want. Not what you were told to want. Not what's popular, not what's safe. It means declaring your vision in a world addicted to conformity and then committing to it with everything you've got. You don't drift your way to destiny. You decide, you define, you design. And that process starts in your thoughts. If you don't hold the pen, someone else will write your story. And they'll write you as the supporting character in your own life. Forgettable, replaceable, silent, but you weren't born to be silent. You were born to speak life into your vision through thought, belief, and action. And if you say you don't know what your vision is, that's not the problem. The problem is you haven't spent enough time alone with your thoughts, in silence, without distraction, to hear your own voice again. Society has taught you to fear stillness, to fill every moment with noise, but your purpose doesn't scream, it whispers, and if your mind is too loud, you'll never hear it, so you must go inward. Ask, what do I truly want? What sets my soul on fire? What would I build if fear wasn't in the room? Not for likes, not for applause, but because it matters, because it leaves a mark. Once you have clarity, you need vision. Vision is not fantasy, and it's not daydreaming. It's a clear, detailed image of the future you are building, held so vividly in your mind that it becomes more real than your current reality. Vision is the architect, discipline is the builder, and your thoughts are the blueprint. You must see it so clearly in your mind that you walk through it before the foundation is even laid. That's how you endure. That's how you keep going when the results haven't caught up yet. That's how you show up when no one claps. Because vision makes the invisible visible. It makes pain purposeful. It makes sacrifice sacred. Without vision, every obstacle feels permanent. With vision, every obstacle becomes temporary. You say, this pain, it's just a process. This delay, it's not denial. This storm, it's shaping the version of me who can carry the life I asked for. And now we arrive at the core, the spine of all transformation, self-mastery. Because until you master yourself, you'll be ruled by everything else. The clock, the opinions, the urges, the doubts, the cravings, the excuses. Discipline isn't punishment, it's freedom. And freedom is not the absence of rules. It's the presence of internal order, where your thoughts are aligned with your vision and your actions serve your highest good. Most people wake up every day and serve their impulses. You must wake up and serve your mission. Self-mastery means showing up when you don't feel like it. And not because it's fun, not because it's easy, but because you promised yourself and you keep promises. You don't take days off from purpose. You don't negotiate with weakness. You don't let your temporary emotion override your permanent standard. Because you are building something greater than a mood. You are building a legacy. And here's what no one wants to say out loud. Self-mastery is war, a quiet internal war against laziness, against mediocrity, against distraction, against the comfortable lies that whisper, "You're fine the way you are, you don't need to push, no one's watching." But someone is watching. You, your future self. The one waiting on the other side of your discipline, your resilience, and your consistency. The one who will live or suffer by the standards you choose today. So ask yourself, am I training the mind that will build my future, or am I feeding the thoughts that are slowly destroying it? Because this isn't about willpower once in a while, it's about identity every single day. Who are you when no one sees it? Who are you when it's hard? Who are you when no reward is guaranteed? That's the version of you that creates lasting change. That's the version that transforms thought into greatness. You want wealth? Master the thoughts that lead to abundance. If you want peace, master the thoughts that silence chaos. If you want confidence, master the thoughts that kill fear. You want discipline? Master the thoughts that say, "I do it anyway," because no one hands you greatness. You build it in the dark, in the silence, in the struggle. And the foundation is always the same. Thought, pure, focused, empowered thought, aligned with belief, backed by action, unshaken by noise, unmoved by doubt. That is the root of power. That is the birthplace of all success. And that is the mind of a leader. Now let's speak the truth about adversity, because if you're chasing mastery, wealth, success, anything worth having, you will be tested. Not once, not occasionally, every day. And most will fold. Not because the challenge is too big, but because their thoughts are too small. Here's what they don't teach. Life doesn't hand you adversity to break you. It hands you adversity to introduce you to the parts of yourself you've never met, to the fighter, to the focused, to the one who doesn't quit when it hurts, but rises when it hurts. Most people wait for the storm to pass, but leaders, they train in the rain. Because they know adversity doesn't weaken the strong, it reveals them. You will be knocked down. You will face silence, rejection, criticism. You will be told you're crazy, delusional, unrealistic. Good, that's the path, that's the test. If you want what few have, you must think how few think, and endure what few are willing to face. The average mind seeks comfort. The powerful mind seeks clarity inside chaos. You don't rise by avoiding pressure. You rise by developing the internal resilience that can walk through fire and come out focused. And here's the key. Resilience is not just about surviving pain, it's about what you tell yourself during the pain. Do you say, "This is too much?" Or, "This is shaping me"? Do you say, "I can't take this," or "I was built for this"? Because resilience begins in the language of your thoughts. The world throws fire, but your inner voice determines whether you burn or forge steel. That's the difference. The weak let circumstance control their story. The strong become authors, even when the ink is blood and the page is torn. So if you're hurting, good, it means you're stretching. It means you're growing into the strength you prayed for. Don't run from it. Learn to think differently inside of it. And success is not about avoiding failure. It's about training your thoughts to convert failure into feedback, into fuel, into forward momentum. Because when your thoughts are powerful, nothing is wasted. Every loss becomes leverage. Every delay becomes direction. Every wound becomes wisdom. That is the mindset that leads to wealth. Now let's talk about wealth, real wealth. Not just numbers, but the mindset that creates abundance from within. Napoleon Hill said it best. Success comes to those who become success conscious. That means you don't wait for money to believe you're wealthy. You train your thoughts to align with abundance before the world reflects it. Wealth is not created from desperation. It's created from decision, from faith, from thinking like someone who already possesses it. If your thoughts are filled with lack, you will repel opportunity. If your thoughts are filled with fear, you will sabotage your future. But if your thoughts are trained to expect increase, to expect multiplication, to expect alignment with value, service, and flow, you create momentum before a dollar shows up. This isn't fantasy. It's vibration. Your thoughts broadcast what you're ready to receive. You cannot plant scarcity and expect a harvest of overflow. You cannot think like a slave to circumstance and expect the freedom of ownership. So decide, I am wealth, I am power, I am capable, I am prepared. And live from that. Speak from that. Build from that, even when there's nothing around you but dust. Because the wealthiest people didn't start with more money. They started with more belief. They trained their thoughts to act as magnets, to attract solutions, to see value where others saw limits, to multiply instead of mourn, but it starts inside, every time. So the real question is, what version of you are you becoming in your mind? The disciplined one, the visionary one, the unstoppable one, or the one who folds at the first sign of resistance? Because life is always responding to your dominant thought. You think fear, you'll live afraid. You think wealth, you'll move different. You think strength, you'll carry storms like they were made for you. You become the product of what you mentally practice, over and over and over. Which brings us to the next truth. You've heard it said, you become what you think about. But let's go deeper. You don't just become what you think. You become what you repeatedly believe about yourself, even when no one's watching. Your identity is shaped in silence, not by the applause, not by the titles, but by the quiet, consistent patterns you rehearse in your own mind. And this is where most lose the battle. They try to change their life without changing their thoughts. They change their habits, but never change their identity. You can wake up early, you can work hard, you can do all the right things externally. But if your internal voice is still calling you unworthy, broken, or not enough, then you'll never hold the success you reach for, because your mind will sabotage what your hands try to build. That's why this isn't about motivation. It's about reprogramming. Because until you rewrite the beliefs running your life, you'll keep repeating old patterns in new environments. You'll sabotage good relationships. You'll reject big opportunities. You'll shrink in rooms you were born to lead in, not because you weren't capable, but because your thoughts were still echoing an outdated identity. So stop trying to upgrade your life without upgrading your mind. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. And who you are is shaped by the thoughts you feed. So feed them strength, feed them certainty, feed them power, vision, gratitude, fire. Because your brain doesn't argue with your repetition, it becomes it. If you tell yourself, I'm not enough, your brain finds proof. If you tell yourself, I always figure it out, your brain finds solutions. You must take responsibility for the conversation happening in your head, because that voice is building or breaking everything you touch. And if no one told you this yet, let me say it now. You're allowed to think differently than you were raised. You're allowed to upgrade the mental software. You're allowed to install new beliefs. You're allowed to outgrow the limitations that were handed to you. You are not your past. You are not your mistakes. You are not what they called you, labeled you, or failed to see in you. You are what you decide to become, and that decision is made daily. So decide, not once, every single morning. Decide who you are, decide what you value, decide what thoughts are no longer welcome, and then walk like it, speak like it, build like it, live like it. Because your actions are just the shadows of your thoughts. And when you master your thoughts, your entire world shifts. That's not just a cute idea, it's a law. It's cause and effect. It's what Napoleon Hill meant when he said, whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve. He didn't say wish, he didn't say hope. He said conceive and believe. That means you hold it clearly in your thoughts, and then you reinforce it with belief. And when that belief becomes unshakable, the world bends in your direction. And people call it luck. They call it coincidence. They call it charisma, but it's not. It's alignment. It's thought in harmony with destiny. It's internal power that shapes external results. And when you live like that, when you think like that, you become unstoppable. Not because the path gets easier, but because you get stronger. You don't avoid pain. You rise through it. You don't wait for permission. You move with purpose. You don't need external motivation because your mind is trained for the mission. That's who you were meant to be. Not average, not afraid, not in survival mode, but powerful, purposeful, precise, with a mind like a weapon, a spirit like fire, and a legacy that starts the moment you take full control of your thoughts. So if you're still waiting for a sign, this is it. Not just to chase success, but to choose it, to own it, to think in alignment with it and become it. Because success is not for the lucky. It's for the deliberate, the focused, the relentless. And the first battle, it's not out there. It's in your mind. Master it, and you'll conquer your world.